You're listening to Everybody Pulls the Tarp, the go-to podcast for high performers. I'm Andrew Moses. Each week, you'll hear my thought-provoking conversations with Olympians, pro athletes, CEOs, elite coaches, best-selling authors, and other high performers to uncover their secrets to success. Get ready to be inspired each week when we talk about leadership, teamwork, work ethic, and more. Are you ready? Let's go. Hi, everyone. This week, my guest is Penn State student Kate Colgan. Kate is the executive director for THON, the world's largest student-run philanthropy. Before I get to Kate, let me first tell you about THON. THON is a student-run initiative at Penn State University, raising money to help kids and families impacted by childhood cancer. Every year, more than 16,500 student volunteers at Penn State team up and work year-round to organize events and programs that bring hope and support to families battling childhood cancer. The year-long effort culminates every February with a 46-hour dance marathon on Penn State's campus. This year, THON raised more than $13.7 million, setting a new record. It brings the total raised since THON began 50 years ago to more than $200 million. All of the money goes to 4 Diamonds at Penn State Health Children's Hospital. 4 Diamonds covers 100% of all medical expenses related to cancer care not covered by insurance. Simply put, thanks to the efforts of those 16,500 student volunteers each year, families at Penn State Health Children's Hospital never see a single bill. I have had the opportunity to attend a few THONs over the years, first as a Penn State student, and more recently as an alumni. I've always said it is nearly impossible to explain THON to someone who hasn't experienced it themselves. I like to say it's the best of humanity. Thousands of young people from all walks of life, uniting as one for the sole purpose of helping others. Like I mentioned earlier, this year Penn State student Kate Colgan served as THON's executive director. And as if raising millions of dollars isn't hard enough already, Kate navigated THON through a year where the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic continued to force THON to reinvent its events and fundraising efforts. I caught up with Kate a few days after this year's THON and asked her for a behind-the-scenes look at leading the largest student-run philanthropy in the world. Kate's wisdom is well beyond her years, and she shared timeless lessons about leadership, teamwork, and what's possible when people come together above all else to help others. I think you'll agree, THON is the best of humanity. So, let's pull the tarp and get straight to Kate Colgan. Kate, I've got to ask, you just ran a 46-hour dance marathon. Have you gotten some sleep?
Been working on it. I've kind of realized that I'm more mentally exhausted than anything else. So that seems to be the hardest thing to catch up on.
So for people who are not familiar with THON, spend a minute and just share what THON is, what the Penn State Dance Marathon is.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you had said, THON is the world's largest student-run philanthropy. We are an organization that's committed to enhancing the lives of children and families impacted by childhood cancer. So we raise money for our sole beneficiary, which is 4 Diamonds at Penn State Health Children's Hospital. And what 4 Diamonds does is they ensure that every family who's treated for childhood cancer at their hospital never sees a single medical bill. They don't pay anything, and they also help them with any other expenses that they might need during the time that their child is fighting childhood cancer. And on top of that, 4 Diamonds funds special services that you don't always get everywhere else. So music therapy, art therapy, child life support, all of those types of things. And then the biggest piece of what their money funds at this point is research to make a lasting impact and to make a difference in the lives of children and families battling childhood cancer and ultimately find a cure for childhood cancer worldwide. And so THON is a student-run organization that raises millions of dollars annually in the fight for 4 Diamonds. And we culminate every year in a 46-hour, no sitting, no sleeping dance marathon.
You mentioned, Kate, obviously the dance marathon, the culmination, which I want to get into quite a bit, but it is a year-round effort. What else is going on throughout the year?
So much. Our volunteers are starting to be selected really by next Friday. We start the next round for 2023. So it starts right up again. And then we have fundraising efforts that go all year round. Our fundraising continues the whole year. We have events that happen throughout the entire year to keep our community engaged. We have a 5K, we have a 100 Days Till THON celebration, we have a family carnival, we have a THON showcase. We have so many things that happen throughout the year to keep people engaged and remind people that we're still here and we're still fighting.
Kate, this year you raised a record-setting more than $13.7 million, bringing the total raised by THON in its 50-year history now to well over $200 million. Have you had a chance to reflect and kind of think about the impact of that?
Yes and no. I feel like it's something that it will never really sink in. It's just like something that's so incredible that I just don't feel like I'll ever really come to terms with it. But it's absolutely incredible. And it's something that we say at THON is that, one day we'll dance in celebration, but until then we dance for a cure. And this week we're $13.7 million closer to a cure.
So at the beginning of the process, Kate, do you set a fundraising goal or how do you go about that?
THON never sets fundraising goals. A huge part of our mission is to provide just support, emotional support to these families. And so no matter what we do in terms of our fundraising, if we're able to provide that emotional support to these families and we're able to help them create memories and have days where their kids can just be kids, that's an incredible feeling. And then whatever amount of money we raise, we know that we're that much amount of money closer to a cure for childhood cancer. So at the end of the year, it doesn't matter what that amount of money is because we know that regardless, we're making a difference.
You sure are, Kate, all of you. And it's a huge, huge effort. More than 16,000 student volunteers power THON, and this year you led them all. What is that experience like, being a student, a college student, and putting together a committee essentially of 16,000 other students to help get a job done?
It's kind of a surreal feeling, but at the same time, it's not just me. It's not just this one person. It's a pyramid that continues building upon itself. So I selected my committee of 16 individuals who then kind of did the rest. They select their captains, who select their committee members, and organizations are involved and they select their members and have people getting involved. So it's an incredible feeling to know that you're kind of very involved in all of that, but at the same time, it's not me. It's not this one person who's sitting here. It's everyone who has wanted to get involved and is giving their time and their resources and just their heart and soul to this organization.
Kate, you sure are very humble, but most CEOs don't run a company that has 16,000 employees and takes on what you've taken on. What has been the biggest learning experience for you from a standpoint of leadership and that side of the house?
So much. I mean, you don't get to this position in just one year. I've spent a long time in leadership in this organization, and I've grown so much. I'm not the same person that I was when I started school here, and so I've learned so much. I've learned how to trust in others and how to to put your trust in them, that they're going to, as we say, hold your rope. They're going to be there to hold the other end of your rope and make sure that they're doing their job just as you're doing yours. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned, is just how to empower others and trust that they're going to do their job just as I'm going to do mine. And together we're going to make it all work.
Kate, you mentioned that this is something you've been working towards for some time here, to be the executive director of THON, the overall student leader of the more than 16,000 student volunteers. When did you first find out about THON, and how did you first get involved?
So my cousins have been involved in THON for my entire life. My first THON was actually when I was 2 years old. So it was just something that I grew up around. And as a kid, it was just this really fun weekend that I got to go to that was super colorful and had lots of fun music. And I got to bounce a ball around with my cousins, and it was great. And then as I got older, I really started to understand the impact of the event and the difference that it was making for people who were children and families who were just like me. And from there, I got involved with mini thons at my middle and high school. And then I knew that I wanted to be here. I wanted to be at Penn State getting involved in THON in some way, shape, or form. And as they say, the rest is history.
Take me through, you talked about it being a year-long effort, and I want to unpack that a little bit more. Obviously, we've talked about the more than 16,000 student volunteers that work on all these different committees. It's so staggering to me. I mean, as someone who's followed THON now for quite some time, how does it all come together?
Piece by piece. It doesn't all happen at once. Like I said, we The executive director is selected in just a few weeks from now, and they immediately go into selecting their executive committee, who immediately goes into selecting about half of their captains. And then that group of individuals works throughout the summer to kind of set the foundation for everything that's going to happen throughout the rest of the year. And then in the fall, we go right into our second half of captain selection and then our committee member selection. And then from there, they just hit the ground running at full speed and it never stops. It doesn't let up until THON weekend. And then on the fundraising side, our fiscal year starts on July 1st. And that's another hit the ground running type of thing. And just going straight through until the end, continuing to push and find new fundraising methods and ways to continue to raise funds in the fight against childhood cancer. And so it starts slowly and then it's kind of a snowball effect. It's more and more people that are getting involved in and are helping us in our efforts.
How do you facilitate communication and collaboration amongst a group that large?
We've gotten better at it over the years, for sure. We have some communication methods that are pretty solid of ways that we know that we can get information to all of these different kinds of people. But at the same time, not everyone is working on all of the same projects together. It's one of the coolest things about THON is that everyone has their piece of the puzzle that comes together at the end, but not everyone's piece of the puzzle is working with someone else's piece of the puzzle. So it's a lot of different groups working on their thing that they know that they need to get done. And it involves collaboration. It involves asking a question to this person over here or needing something, a deliverable from this person over here. But at the end of the day, there are different people in charge of all the different things. And then it all comes together at the end to just make this like incredible picture. And so it's really about empowering volunteers to reach out to each other and to ask each other questions and to get the answers from where they need them, but also to take ownership of their own positions and know that they're doing the right thing, even if they're unsure, if they're not entirely sure that they're the right person to be doing it, to just take ownership of that and continue to charge forward and know that at the end it's all going to come together.
Kate, you mentioned the phrase painting a picture. So for anyone who's never seen THON, I think I always say if you haven't been to a THON, it's hard to describe. It's not your typical dance marathon. It's not just a bunch of people in front of a band or a DJ dancing for 46 straight hours. It's an experience like no other. So for our listeners, paint that picture as best you can of what THON weekend looks like.
Yeah, one of our family speakers from THON weekend last year said that you can't explain it from the inside looking out. You can't understand it from the outside looking in. And I think that's a really good way to describe it because it's true. It's hard to fathom. I think because it's hard to imagine that you would have a weekend for 46 straight hours where 15,000 college students have locked themselves in this building and are standing and not sleeping, all in the fight against childhood cancer. Like, I think that's just a hard concept to fathom, but it's imagining a whole building just full of colors and light and hope. It's just this feeling of love and hope throughout the whole building. It's something that you feel deep down in your soul that you can't really explain, but you walk in and you just feel uplifted and you just feel like so close to everyone in the building. And it's a dance marathon. It's loud and it's colorful and there's music going constantly and people are moving and dancing. And it's just, you can't explain it, but it's just the most incredible sight you'll ever see.
It sure is. And I say to people, it is humanity at its finest. Whether you look on the live stream, whether you're in the building, it is humanity at its finest, right? It's young people taking part in a cause that's bigger than themselves. It's something, college students, people who have, maybe limited years of experience, but they come with a heart full of kindness and appreciation to this event and take responsibility and accountability for playing a bigger part in something than themselves. I always say it's human. I can't describe it any other way. It's humanity at its finest. If you could bottle that up, those 46 hours up, it's something really unique. And what I want people to realize is this is not a classroom. This is not a little field house. This is a massive college basketball arena that these students lock themselves in for 46 hours. And it doesn't just involve the students. There are alumni, there are faculty, there are staff, and then most importantly, the families of Four Diamonds that participate and engage in the event. So talk about that for a minute, Kate, the experience of working with all the Four Diamonds families, because I think that's such an important piece of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something that we say is what makes THON so successful because our beneficiary is someone who is right here in central Pennsylvania. And while they're making a difference worldwide with their research, the families specifically that we're benefiting, they're right here. And because we're partnered with our beneficiary, we have a close connection to those families, and therefore we have a close connection to our mission. And that's what makes our organization so powerful and so successful is that they're right there. We're meeting these people and we're hearing them tell us the difference that this has made in their lives. And that's something that's so powerful and I think that has made us so successful is because we have that direct connection. We get to know these people on a personal level and we realize that they're just like us and they had this unfortunate thing that was childhood cancer happen to them. And so that's what has made THON so successful is this close connection to our families. And so we work with them year round. We have the organizations at Penn State that participate in THON can participate in what's called the Adopt a Family program, where they can adopt a Four Diamonds family into their organization and can call them their own family and get to know them on a personal level and get to be big brothers and sisters to the kids and get to become friends and provide that emotional support to the parents. And so that connection year round is something that's so important. And then for THON weekend, it's something that provides that just that boost at the times that you need it the most when you've been on your feet for 24 hours and you're really annoyed because something happened that you're annoyed about. And then you walk out and you see a kid on the floor blowing bubbles and just having the best time of their life. And that just makes it all worth it because you've created this space where for 46 hours, these kids can just be kids. They're not in the hospital. They're not at home dealing with whatever side effects of treatment. They're here and they're just kids for a weekend. And the parents are just getting to experience their kids just being kids. And so that's something that's just so incredible is knowing that like no matter what happens at the end of it all, they're leaving and they've had this incredible weekend where they were just kids and they just felt on top of the world and that everyone was there for them.
Kate, one of the questions on that topic that I got on social media when I shared that I was going to be sitting down with you from a couple of different people is the impact of COVID, right? So much of this, I mean, we talked about it, you're putting 15, 16,000 students in an arena in close quarters for 2 days straight. There's so much engagement and connectivity with the families, kids who are undergoing treatment, immunocompromised. The question that I've gotten is, how has COVID impacted THON and how have you as a leader really tried to lead the organization through what I'm sure has been a challenging period of time?
Yeah, I mean, COVID has impacted THON immensely. Our dance marathon was entirely virtual. Last year, it was a 46-hour live stream. That was it. We didn't hold it in person because we weren't able to. And then this year, we were kind of left with the task of figuring out how we could have it in person if we were going to be able to at all. And that was no easy task. It was a lot of time spent with university leadership and with professionals at the hospital and professionals at Penn State's COVID Operations and Control Center, figuring out, one, was this something we can do? But two, if it was, how could we do it? How could we make sure that it was safe? So it was a lot of time and effort into figuring that out. But I think at the end of the day, we knew that our student volunteers were going to do whatever it took to be able to care for the families. That's what it all came down to. They were going to comply with or they were going to do whatever it took so that they could be there for that weekend supporting the families. And so we had a lot of COVID protocols. We had, a vaccine or testing mandate for everyone coming into the building. All of the dancers who were on the floor for the 46 hours had to be vaccinated and had to have had a negative test. All of our student volunteers, like THON's committee volunteers who were on the floor for a lot of the time, had to be vaccinated and had to have provided proof of negative test. Any students who were going to be on the floor needed to be vaccinated. It was a lot. And then on top of that, masking the whole time. It's a university building. The university policy is masking on campus, masking the whole time, even for the people that stood for the 46 hours, even for the dancers, even for the families, masking the whole time. But it was fine. And the students complied and they followed the rules because they wanted to be there and they wanted to be there for our families. And so we had a really successful event because they understood that it was bigger than themselves and it was bigger than an inconvenience that it might have caused them.
Kate, do you think that there were things that COVID changed that maybe are improvements that'll stick with THON for the better? Like ways it forced you to innovate? What about that?
Oh, absolutely. So as I had mentioned last year, our dance marathon was entirely virtual. But out of that, we created this really incredible and engaging live stream. In the past, the THON weekend live stream had been what I kind of like to describe as a nanny cam. It was just footage of the building, just raw footage of the building, really, for like 46 hours. And so, like, you might be able to sit down and watch that for like 20 minutes, but that's not going to captivate you for an entire weekend. And last year, we were forced to rewrite that entirely. It had to be something that was going to engage people for 46 hours because there was nothing else. And so we realized that that was something that we could do in the future. We could mix live shots of the building with content that was only going to be seen on the live stream and that was going to be engaging for the live stream. And so that was hugely beneficial this year and really contributed to our fundraising success was the fact that you didn't have to be in state college to be at THON weekend. You could be at THON weekend from anywhere in the world. And it allowed us to engage our families who weren't able to attend THON weekend because they're on active treatment or were just too under the weather and it wasn't safe for their family to be able to come. And so that was huge too. We were able to engage those families in a way that we never had before. And so we learned so many things through that, but that is one of the biggest is that there was this whole group of people that we were missing out on engaging because even before the pandemic, they were never going to make it to state college. They were never going to be able to make it to state college and we never had a way to engage them. And now we do.
Kate, take me a little bit more like behind the scenes on the weekend, right? We talked about the year and everything leading into it. What about the weekend? I mean, when I've been at THONs, I see a lot of clipboards and headsets and lots of students working together to bring a massive production. What's going on behind the scenes?
A massive production is a good way to describe it. It kind of goes back to the puzzle analogy and that everyone has their piece of the puzzle and it's all coming together. So we have 16 different committees that are working to make the weekend a success and are working to pull it all together. And so they all have their different things that they're responsible for and they're responsible for bringing it together. It's entirely student run, everything in the building. We have support staff from the building staff that are there, but everything that you see happen, the stage that you see everyone perform on, put together by students, the flooring that you're seeing everyone stand on, put together by students, the bathrooms being cleaned, done by students, the security in the building, done by students, the concessions run by students. And so everyone has that piece that they're responsible for and that they make happen. And it requires collaboration with other groups. But if they are responsible for their piece of it and they do what needs to be done and make sure that that's done successfully, and as long as everyone else does their piece too, the weekend all comes together into just this beautiful thing that you have no idea how it happened, but it just did because everyone did what they were supposed to do.
Are there examples of things that kind of get off the rails and don't go as planned? How do you deal with those?
There always are, but we're really good about communicating. You mentioned seeing the headsets. We have radios that cell reception is really bad in that building because there's 15,000 people in it. So we communicate with radios the whole weekend so that we can make sure that we can get in touch with each other. And so while something might go wrong, I can guarantee that within 30 seconds of it going wrong, everyone that needs to know has heard about it and they're moving to figure out what needs to be done to course correct before anyone else has even really realized that something went wrong. So while things can go wrong, we're really good about communicating with each other fast and figuring out what needs to be done before anyone else has even realized that something has gone wrong.
I know that the dancers obviously are not sitting, they're not sleeping for 46 straight hours. What about the leadership, the organizers? What does that look like? Are you getting any sleep?
A little bit. So directors and captains get 2 4-hour sleep shifts throughout the weekend, which seems pretty good. It's 8 hours of sleep over those 2 days, but we don't get there when the event starts at 6 p.m. on Friday. Most of us are there. I was there at 4:30 in the morning on Friday this year, and we didn't leave until 2 a.m. on Monday. So it's 2 4-hour sleep shifts over that time. But at the same time, while that sounds like it's a crazy little amount of sleep, you're moving so fast and so quickly, and there's so much to be done that you don't even realize that it's time for you to sleep or that you've needed sleep until you stop to sit down and go do that. So we get a little bit enough to rejuvenate us and keep us going throughout the weekend, but it's an all hands on deck type of situation. So we can't have people gone for much more than that amount of time.
You know, Kate, I recently interviewed Jason Kabinda, who played linebacker at Penn State, and he plays in the NFL. And this year at the Super Bowl, just a couple weeks ago, he was nominated for the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year, the NFL's most prestigious honor. And when I interviewed Jason, he said to me, Andrew, there was a moment when I realized that I was bigger than football. And I asked him, I said, when was that? And he said, Andrew, as part of Penn State's football program, I took a trip to Hershey Medical Center. And I met with Four Diamonds families, and I met with kids affected in a positive way by THON. And then I was at THON, and I saw what the Penn State community does for others, and it redefined me. It redefined the way I was going to look at my role. And if I was fortunate enough to make the NFL and have a platform, I was going to use that platform for good. And Jason is now being recognized by the NFL at the highest level for not only his on-field achievements, but his off-the-field contributions. When you hear a story like that, someone who has achieved immense success in their field, but talks about THON and interactions with Four Diamond families as propelling them to make a bigger contribution to the world, what does that mean to you?
I think it goes back to that concept that, and that same realization that I had, that these kids and these families, they're just like us. They're literally just down the road from us, and they were going about their lives. They were going to school. They were coming to Penn State football games and doing all of the same things that people like us did. And then all of a sudden, this awful thing happened to them that was just completely unfathomable. And so I think it's just a testament to the strength of our partnership with that organization and how it continues to motivate people on a daily basis, because it's true. And I relate to that feeling so much, just like realizing that what we're doing it's so much bigger, and there's real people that it's helping and it's impacting. It has literally changed their lives and has given them more time with their children, or has given them a cure for their child, like a reliable treatment for their child's cancer that gives them a really good chance of survival. And so I think I relate to that feeling a lot. And Nick Scott was at THON this past weekend, and same thing with him. He danced in THON when he was a senior here. And it's the same type of thing, just that realization that like these people they're just like us. And they had this horrible thing happen to them, and we need to do what we can to make sure that that doesn't happen to anyone else.
Kate, is there a moment, whether it was this past weekend or throughout your time at Penn State, is there a favorite moment or a moment that stands out for you in terms of THON?
I think, so as I said, I have been going to THON since I was a really little kid. It was just something that I grew up around. And so I never had that like kind of like first THON experience that I remember. But I love seeing other people experience THON for the first time, because it's like what we were talking about. Like you just can't understand it until you're there. And so seeing the magic of it through the eyes of other people for the first time is just like, that's one of my favorite things, to see other people just look around and just say, whoa, is so cool. And also to look around and, I spent a lot of time this weekend just kind of standing on the floor and behind the stage and just looking around at all of the people who were there for the same cause. On a college campus, there's lots of different fraternities and sororities and things that people are, kind of pitted against each other for. But for this one thing, like they're all there together. And that was just something that was it's so incredible to look around and see. It's like you said, it's the best of humanity right there in that building. And it's so cool. And the love and the hope in that building is it's palpable.
So, Kate, I've got to ask. I mean, there's probably thousands of people listening right now who are like, how can I hire Kate Colgan to lead something in my organization? What's next for you?
I want to work in nonprofit. I think it's hard to come out of this type of position and not want to do that, because you finish this and it's just like such a high of knowing that like you made a difference, and that's so fulfilling. And so that's what I hope is next for me. I'm hoping to work in nonprofit and continue making a difference in someone else's life, no matter what that is.
Kate, you, no question, are a tarp puller. You embody everything we talk about on this show on a weekly basis. Everybody pulls the tarp. You and your fellow Penn State students and classmates and volunteers and everybody involved, like I said, the absolute best in humanity. And I'm getting emotional just talking about it. As somebody who went to Penn State and loves Penn State, it is hands down every year the proudest weekend to be a Penn State alumni that we could possibly have. All of you make us so proud. I can't say it enough. It is the best of humanity. And for those listening, if you haven't had a chance to check out THON, Kate, where can people find out more information about THON?
THON.org. Pretty simple. You can find us at THON.org. You can learn much more about our organization and read our family stories and can see lots of incredible videos of what we do.
The best in humanity. Kate, you've accomplished so much, and I know you are just getting started. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me, and thank you for all that you have done for all those families, all those kids, and to make the world a better place. Thank you for pulling the tarp.
Thank you so much for having me and to help us spread our mission.
Thank you for joining me this week. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you can catch all of our upcoming episodes. And if you are like me and want a world full of tarp pullers, then leave a review to help others find us. You can also follow me on Instagram at AndrewMoses123 and sign up for my monthly email newsletter at everybodypullsthetarp.com/newsletter. I'll share tips and insights to help you achieve maximum success and happiness. Today is a great day to pull the tarp. I am rooting for you. See you next time.